ruthless and violent. They would use contract killers to assassinate anyone who they saw as an obstacle to their operation.
Multiple shootings and murders in the GTA linked to a transnational drug trafficking operation.
Stunning revelations from law enforcement on both sides of the border. An innocent Caledon couple killed in the violence. A former Canadian Olympic snowboarder wanted by the FBI. Good evening. It is a complex and expansive investigation involving multiple police jurisdictions, including the FBI, OPP, and Peel Police.
Deadly violence here connected to the trafficking of cocaine from Colombia through Mexico, California, and into Canada. And at the center of it all, a Canadian Olympic athlete allegedly turned drug lord, accused of overseeing horrific violence that claimed innocent lives. CTV's Sean Lathong joins us live with all the details. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, they're saying it's a case of mistaken identity for that Caledon couple. The shooting was a mistake. The criminals were retaliating for a lost shipment of cocaine. They got the wrong house with fatal consequences. The Canadian accused of being a kingpin of a multinational drug smuggling operation, Ryan Wedding, was once an Olympic snowboarder for Canada.
He chose to become a major drug trafficker, and he chose to become a killer.
In Los Angeles today, several law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, OPP, and Peel Police, announcing their disruption of this drug smuggling operation responsible for moving 60 tons of cocaine per year from Colombia to Mexico through the United States and Canada. Also,
they would use contract killers to assassinate anyone who they saw as an obstacle to their operation.
The group is alleged to be responsible for a number of shootings here in the GTA, including one that resulted in the deaths of 2 innocent people and life-altering injuries to another.
My father died in front of me, and I heard my mother's last screams. I witnessed it.
We spoke to 28-year-old Jaspreet Kaur Sidhu earlier this year. She was shot 13 times on November 20th, 2023, inside her Caledon home. Her father, Jagtar Singh Sidhu, and mother, Harbhajan Kaur Sidhu, were both killed.
We never even argued with anyone, so we do not understand who can do this to us.
Back in March, Peel Police announced the results of Project Midnight, where they said the shootings of the Sidhu house was one of 5 related shootings over the previous year.
I want to stress that the Sidhu family were completely innocent.
Today, at their announcement, the OPP confirmed that they believe the shooting was a case of mistaken identity.
They essentially got the wrong house. The Sidhu family was not the intended target.
OPP Deputy Inspector Brian McDermott says they know who was the intended target and have been working to protect that individual.
Wedding went by various names and nicknames, including Giant, El Jefe, and Public Enemy.
16 arrests have been made in connection with the Wedding organization, including Wedding's second-in-command, Andrew Clark, who is also Canadian. He's facing charges of murder and drug smuggling, while Ryan James Wedding remains at large. Now, police allege that Ryan Wedding and Andrew Clark are tied to other shootings, including May 18th of this year in Peel Region, and Niagara Regional Police have revealed that Wedding and Clark are suspects in a shooting there as well. The FBI is offering $50,000 U.S. reward for information leading to Wedding's capture. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Next to the case of a suspected serial killer, and a Toronto court has ordered an assessment to figure out if the woman accused of killing 3 people in 3 cities over 3 days is fit to stand trial. 30-year-old Sabrina Koldar was in court on a second-degree murder charge related to the death of a woman in her 60s here in the city October 1st. She also stands accused of killing a man in his 40s in Niagara Falls and a man in his 70s in Hamilton, who police believe she did not know. Defense attorneys for Koldar say she told them to oppose the assessment of her fitness for trial, but it was granted in the end.
Also tonight, stay in your lane. The bike lane battle is gearing up between City Hall and Queen's Park. The city's new plan that could be forced to hit the brakes.
But first, we turn to a legal victory for a group of Ontario teens taking on the Ford government over its climate change plan.
They had argued a weakened emissions target is a violation of their constitutional rights, and today, a court of appeal ruled the case should be heard. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details. Siobhan.
Well, we saw a lot of wide smiles from the young people involved in this case and their lawyers, too. We don't know when the next step in this case will be, but lawyers hope it will be a blueprint for other similar cases right across the country.
Our win today shows that our voices and concerns matter.
A victory for 7 young Ontarians who took the government to court over its emission targets. Weaker targets, they argue, put their futures at risk. It's the first case in Canada to contemplate whether a climate plan could violate someone's charter rights.
This is an important day for climate justice. It's an important day for government accountability.
Ontario's Court of Appeal has ordered a new hearing for the group after the case was dismissed by a lower court. The province's highest court found mistakes were made.
And that Ontario's failure to act on climate change is risking the lives and well-being of its citizens. This ruling boxes Ontario in a corner.
Lawyers want to get this case back into court as soon as possible.
Now they have to meet us on the science and the evidence where they know they are weak, because climate change is a reality.
It's something the young people involved in the case have seen in their own communities.
The impacts of the refineries show up in foods and plants. They're restricting my community's access to traditional food sources.
Lake Superior has had a shocking reduction in ice cover, something that impacts how my community is able to use the lake.
But they're determined to fight on.
We see a different world is possible.
Putting governments across the country on notice and providing a bit of hope for the generation ahead.
I believe that our case can make a real difference for young people in Canada and put Ontario back on track to take real climate action and start working for a safer future.
A spokesperson for Ontario's Attorney General stresses the court has not made a call at this point about the constitutionality of the climate plan. He defends that plan, talking about investments in greener steel manufacturing and public transit projects. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. A long-term care home overcome by death during the pandemic, now at the center of a court challenge over the decision to renew its license and expand. The calls for accountability still ahead.
We are monitoring a dramatic scene in East York where a crane has collapsed onto a building under construction. Part of the machine is now draped across the building on Vanderhoof Avenue, with some of it hanging over the side. Toronto police say there were no reported injuries. Vanderhoof is now closed between Laird and Brentcliffe Road. Motorists are being told to expect delays and consider alternate routes.
A live look outside as we take our first look at the forecast this Thursday evening. We have bright blue sky today and a glorious looking sunset and the beginnings of a warm-up. You may have noticed that frost early this morning, but we're putting that behind us for now. Let's bring in Jessica Smith with the warm details. Jess.
The frost is an afterthought. As we head in towards the end of the week and into the weekend, temperatures are on the rise, and we're looking at daytime highs, in some cases 10 degrees above the seasonal average. Right now, there's not much going on. A beautiful end to our day, and that sunset time today, 6:30 p.m. We're looking around 11 to about 15 degrees for the most part, right around southern Ontario, so still holding on in the double digits as we get ready to sign off from the day. Now, over towards the island through Pearson, it's pretty sunny, 13 degrees apiece, but that more southerly flow to the wind really has played a big role today. Tonight, very seasonal, and then things are set to change, and we are on the rise with those temps. Coming up, your full forecast. Right now, back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Could a proposal for a new bike lane in Toronto spark a battle between the city and Queen's Park?
The cycling route is slated for Parkside Drive, a busy and often congested area next to High Park, but it would take over a lane of traffic, something the province has just said it would not allow. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live with the story. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, this proposal to put a bike lane along Parkside Drive here is just one of many measures to make this stretch of road safer. And it comes at a time when the province is looking to introduce legislation that would give it the final approval on where bike lanes are built.
Speeding has been a major problem for years along Parkside Drive. The city now one step closer to moving forward with plans to make this busy stretch of roads safer. Action community advocates say is long overdue.
It'll control motorist speeds. Right now, speeding on Parkside is completely out of control.
The proposal includes a bike lane on the west side of Parkside between Bloor West and Lakeshore, but that could face a roadblock, with the Ford government set to introduce legislation that will require the province's approval for bike lane projects that would require a lane for vehicles removed.
In this case, Parkside would be reduced from 4 lanes to 3.
It's never been an argument about bike lanes. It's always been about safety. The province would be wise to focus on people's safety rather than commute times.
The city estimates travel times would increase by up to 3 minutes during peak hours. Today, the transportation minister didn't specifically say if the province would intervene with this project, but reiterated the government's proposed policy.
It's about considering the challenges around gridlock that people are facing in our cities.
Adding the province will work closely with the city on all bike lane projects.
We'll take into consideration elements of, how productivity, elements of safety.
The mayor voicing objection.
I do not support limiting city powers. Our city planners and our transportation team have done a lot of hard work.
The city reporting nearly 1,500 collisions on Parkside Drive over the past decade, including a fatal chain reaction crash that claimed the lives of 2 seniors in 2021. City Councillor Gord Perks has been involved in the redesign process.
Butt out is my message to Premier Ford.
He argues the province shouldn't intervene.
Narrowing the street, drivers have to pay a bit more attention, and by design, they will have to drive more safely.
But area residents have mixed feelings as to whether bike lanes should be part of the solution.
Traffic on the street goes extremely fast, so outside of there being bike lanes, this street wouldn't be used at all by cyclists.
If you reduce the lanes by half, they're all going to spill into my little neighborhood here, and it will be a nightmare.
City staff say work on the redesign, which also includes intersection improvements and left turning lanes, could start in 2026. But uncertainty now looms with the province inserting itself into municipal road planning. The price tag for this project is more than $7 million. The proposal will go before the Infrastructure Committee on Tuesday. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Meanwhile, the Ford government plans to introduce legislation that it says will speed up highway construction across the province. It would allow construction to take place 24/7 on highway projects that it designates as a priority. The Ministry of Transportation says the proposed law would also streamline utility relocations, speed up access to property and property acquisitions, and accelerate environmental assessments for Highway 413.
Next to a legal fight over extending the license of a long-term care home in Pickering.
Dozens of people died at Orchard Villa during the pandemic, and loved ones are taking the province to court to stop the home from expanding operations. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has the details.
The future of this Pickering long-term care home is now in front of a panel of judges.
What I'm hoping for today is that there will be a really clear decision that the ministry has to follow their own act, which states that they have to take the history of the house, of the long-term care home into account before they can issue a license.
The history of Orchard Villa is a dark one. During the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 70 residents died. The facility so overwhelmed that the military was called in to take over. A Canadian Forces report after the event showed deplorable conditions for patients and staff inside the facility. Since then, a new operator has taken ownership, but the head of the Ontario Health Coalition says issues remain.
The pandemic itself should have been its own never again, but then to consistently have poor inspection reports and non-compliance after the pandemic for the years that have come, or as the pandemic has abated, is, it's indefensible how they would give them a new license.
The new owners applied for and were granted a 30-year license renewal from the province, along with a ministerial zoning order allowing a future expansion of 3 towers with 832 long-term care beds.
There's quality and there's quantity, and building more beds does not deliver quality care.
The coalition is challenging both the expansion and the license renewal in court, saying they violate the government's own legislation, which says licenses won't be issued to long-term care owners that have had a history of substandard care. For its part, the government wants the court challenge dismissed. A spokesperson telling CTV News all proposed license extensions must undergo a rigorous undertaking process to show they can meet these new high standards, as is the case with the proposed Pickering development. Those who had family members inside the facility are left wondering how a place with such a dark past is being allowed to have a bright future.
If someone driving a car or cars had resulted in the outcomes that transpired at Orchard Villa, the drivers would have been arrested and jailed immediately. it would have been a criminal charge, and they would have been prohibited from ever driving again.
Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
The Ontario NDP is filing a complaint with the province's Integrity Commissioner over what they allege was special treatment received by the company building a spa at Ontario Place. NDP leader Marit Stiles says the complaint is aimed at Infrastructure Minister Kinga Surma. Stiles says she has many questions about how the 95-year lease evolved to include a multi-million-dollar 2,500-space parking lot that would be paid for by taxpayers, not spa company Therma.
We know that this government has kept this Integrity Commissioner very busy, unfortunately. He has a lot on his plate, but this is a very significant issue, and I think it is in the public's interest that the Integrity Commissioner investigate.
The province stands by the lease, saying it will bring in about $2 billion over its 95-year term. We have much more on the story online. Head to ctvnewstoronto.ca.
York Regional Police are sharing the results of a raid on an alleged illegal drug lab. We told you yesterday about the police presence on a rural property in Puslinch Township outside Guelph. Investigators have now released these images from the scene, which they say show an illegal magic mushroom operation. York police say it's believed it was producing the drug for illegal commercial distribution across the province. They also reported seizing drugs from a home in Hamilton as the investigation continues.
A Bolton man has been arrested for allegedly posting videos online showing himself stunt driving on a motorcycle across the GTA. Peel and York police began their joint investigation in September and shared some of the footage showing a motorcyclist weaving through traffic, running red lights, and reaching as high as 258 kilometers an hour. 40-year-old Gregory Harrington is facing 51 charges, including 21 counts of dangerous driving and 19 counts of stunt driving. More changes are coming to Justin Trudeau's cabinet. Today, 4 ministers said they will not be running in the next federal election.
Some say their decisions are personal and not about politics, but the announcements come as the Prime Minister faces growing dissent in his caucus. CTV's Mike LeCouture reports.
The news has come as a bit of a shock, considering just 2 weeks ago, CTV News surveyed cabinet ministers about their intentions to run in the next election. All but one had said they would be. So the question is, what changed? There was 29 years of cabinet experience between the 4 of them, and each have said they will not be seeking re-election. Marie-Claude Bibeau, Carla Qualtrough, Dan Vandel, and Philomena Tassi, who says her decision has nothing to do with the current turmoil around the Liberal caucus.
I had confidence in the Prime Minister in 2015, and I have confidence in him today. This decision is all about me being closer to my family.
In a statement, Vandel also voiced his support for Trudeau. It comes as multiple sources tell CTV News a group of Liberal MPs are planning to ask Trudeau to step down as leader at Wednesday's caucus meeting. Frustration has been building since the 2 by-election losses in Montreal and Toronto.
Desire for change that we're seeing from our polling is just maybe overwhelming for so many of these MPs who understand that maybe the only thing left for the party to do is to change the leader.
Now, as recently as Monday, the Prime Minister was asked about his leadership, and he repeated that he intends to lead his party into the next election.
Oui. Yes.
These latest departures come as Seamus O'Regan and Pablo Rodriguez also announced they too won't be running in the next election, meaning the Prime Minister will be forced to shuffle his cabinet. And some believe that could present an opportunity for Trudeau.
Is there a way for him to kind of use a cabinet post, use a new vision, that sort of thing, as a way of bringing people closer to him in these current times, which are incredibly critical for him?
Sources tell CTV News that shuffle is likely to come after the U.S. election on November 5th. Mike LeCouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
One day after the Prime Minister revealed that Conservative parliamentarians may have been compromised by foreign actors, pressure is building on Pierre Poilievre to get his security clearance. CTV's national correspondent Judy Trin reports.
It is ludicrous to me that someone who claims to want to be the Prime Minister of this country doesn't want to know of ongoing and serious threats that impact Canadians.
The NDP leader is criticizing his Conservative counterpart's decision to remain in the dark after the Prime Minister testified about the list of parliamentarians who may have engaged in foreign interference.
I have the names of a number of parliamentarians, former parliamentarians and/or candidates in the Conservative Party of Canada.
Pierre Poilievre says his chief of staff received classified briefings, and at no time was he informed that any current or former Conservative parliamentarian or candidate knowingly participated in foreign interference.
Mr. Poilievre doesn't have a security clearance.
This former head of Canada's intelligence agency says it's not protocol to provide that level of classified information to someone who can't discipline parliamentarians.
First of all, his chief of staff probably wouldn't have been provided that information because he had no way of using it. He had no need to know.
The risks to all parties were tabled in a June report. It revealed alleged foreign political meddling in Conservative leadership races by China and India, but details were redacted. The diplomatic crisis between India and Canada is deepening after the RCMP said they have evidence that the Indian government tried to silence Sikh Canadians with a campaign of violence involving extortion, home invasions, and shootings.
The only reason I think Pierre Poilievre is reluctant to take the information or get the information necessary is because he wants to protect his party above the country, and that is absolutely wrong.
After Singh viewed the unredacted details in the report, he said it wasn't necessary to take action against members of his own party. Both Singh and Poilievre have called for the public release of the names. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
There's been a major development in the Middle East. Israel says it has killed the leader of Hamas. The Israeli military said Yahya Sinwar died in an operation in the southern Gaza Strip yesterday. He was a chief architect of the deadly October 7th attack on Israel that started the war. There was no immediate comment from Hamas. The Israeli Prime Minister says Sinwar's death offers a chance of peace in the Middle East, but warns the war in Gaza is not over and will continue until the hostages are returned. Prime Minister Trudeau says the death of the Hamas leader ends a reign of terror and delivers a message, make that a measure of justice for his victims and their families.
The Gaza Health Ministry says at least 28 people were killed when an Israeli airstrike hit a school sheltering displaced Palestinians today. People gathered outside a hospital following the attack in the Jabalia refugee camp. CNN is reporting 150 people were injured. Israel said it struck a control center used by Hamas and Islamic Jihad inside the school in northern Gaza.
The World Food Program is warning that about 2 million people in the Gaza Strip still face the risk of famine. The organization says people are completely dependent on humanitarian aid and commercial products because local food systems have been destroyed and farms damaged. The WFP believes the risk of famine will persist unless all border crossings remain open and aid continues to reach those in need. Meanwhile, a group consisting of UN agencies, aid organizations, and governments said 86% of the population is experiencing crisis levels of hunger. That's over 1.8 million people.
Parts of France were lashed with torrential rain today, causing heavy flooding. An empty Mini Cooper was swept down a river in the south. Up to half a meter of rain fell in some areas of the region in just 24 hours. It was placed under a red alert, warning of further heavy rainfall into tonight. Floodwaters also submerged roads and railways in central France, disrupting transportation.
A rare copy of the U.S. Constitution will be auctioned tonight, with the opening bid set at $1.1 million. It's a printed original from 1787 and was one of the first copies that Congress sent to the 13 colonies for ratification. This copy is only the 9th of its kind known to still exist. An appraiser discovered the historic document in a filing cabinet at a farm in Edenton, North Carolina. It is folded and lightly stained, but otherwise in good condition. Another copy that was printed for Constitutional Convention delegates sold for $43 million in 2021.
Coming up on CTV News, officials in Argentina reveal initial autopsy results following the shocking death of former One Direction singer Liam Payne, as we hear from his grieving bandmates.
I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, home renovation scams continue to be a problem in the GTA, but we do have good news about a senior who paid $27,000 for a shoddy roofing job. Other roofers have come to the rescue. I'll have an update. That story is just ahead.
The hot spot today in Northern Ontario, but that shifts as we head into the end of the week. Southern Ontario, the heat is on, and we're looking at temperatures well above that seasonal average of 13. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, and stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
According to the Better Business Bureau, home improvement projects were considered the third riskiest scam type in Canada last year.
Criminals go door to door, use scare tactics, and try to get homeowners to pay up front. But we do have some good news about a senior who recently was scammed. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert.
A senior was scammed out of $27,000 by two men who came to her door and claimed her roof was about to collapse. Following our story, CTV News was contacted by more than 10 different roofing companies that wanted to help. One just gave the senior a brand new roof. When we met 79-year-old Patrice Stevens-Bourgeot of Scarborough earlier this month, she was devastated to be caught in a roofing scam. It's alleged these two men claimed her roof was about to cave in, ripped off the shingles, and charged her $27,000 to fix it.
They're ruthless. They don't care. They do not care.
Following our story, 10 different roofing companies offered to give Patrice a new roof free of charge.
I'm very thankful that there's nice people in this world.
Patrice decided to go with Roofing Repairs Done Right, Inc. Bradley Ellis says he wanted to help.
My guys donated their time. I donated all the funds, and as a roofing supplier, Roofer's Edge, they donated the metal.
The company stripped off the old shingles to replace with new ones, installed new metal edging, and even gave Patrice a new skylight.
Knowing that there's good people, and being able to discern between a con man and a real man.
According to the Better Business Bureau, home improvement scams remain a huge problem.
If they do the work, it's worse than what you originally had, or they're taking deposits and leaving.
To help consumers find reputable companies, the BBB website allows you to connect with accredited businesses. You can search trades in your area to find companies that have been vetted and approved by the BBB.
Consumers do know that we have done those checks on those businesses and that they are abiding by those standards of trust.
When choosing a contractor, have a written contract, get 3 quotes in writing, verify contractors have a license and insurance, avoid high-pressure sales tactics, and be wary of lowball cash deals. As for Patrice, she is relieved her roof will be solid and strong to get her through this winter and many more. And when having any home renovation project done, resist pressure to pay in advance. If you do pay up front and there are problems, the contractor may not come back, and getting a refund is extremely difficult. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Great story. Roofing repair done right did right, didn't they?
Oh, they did. I know, Roofer's Edge donating some stuff. I mean, can we just say when that story first aired,
it got everyone's heart.
It got your heart, and we were hoping that some roofers would come forward, and they did, en masse.
Community really shows up in moments like this, and it's so beautiful to see, and it's a great ending to what was a really sad story. We're looking at a great ending to the week, which wasn't necessarily a sad story with the forecast, but it was cold. We had frost advisories last night, and then we're heading into the 20s before this week is all said and done. And the good news is, if you like a warm kind of fall forecast, we have that and then some over the next couple of days. We're seeing that transition start to take place when it comes to the leaves as well. So if you want to get out and check them out this weekend, hit up one of them apple orchards, get some apple picking done, get your pumpkin picked, decorate for Halloween if that's what sparks joy for you. There's so many things you can do this weekend, or just spend some time outside without the extra layers. It is not a typical fall season by any means, but if you do have outdoor plans, it really is beneficial this weekend to get some of that stuff done and kind of get ready to winterize, because winter is coming eventually, but not today or this weekend or the next 5 days. We're sitting at 13 here in the city, the same through Ottawa, the same in Windsor. We're looking at 14 in Sault Ste. Marie, the same in Timmins. It is warm almost everywhere as we wrap up our day today. This evening, we're fairly seasonal here in the city, sitting at 6, a light westerly wind, a little cooler through Bancroft, but temperatures are all over the place as we make this transition. We're at 9 through Owen Sound, but -4 through Bancroft. So we're getting there to the warm up that's going to take place. Into the day tomorrow, it begins. We'll get up to 18. We should be at 13, and almost everybody kind of in that mid to upper teen range. We are looking at multiple areas of high pressure moving in. That means a clear sky, lots of sunshine. We have fairly calm winds as we head throughout the day tomorrow, westerly. That will just kind of carry us into our weekend. The forecast radar map absolutely works. There's just absolutely nothing going on. We're not even looking at any kind of high-level cloud as we head throughout the day tomorrow, and we're looking at a fairly low UV index. Into our Friday evening, nice and clear. If you're stepping into your Saturday and you have plans outside, it'll be great as well. We are looking at high pressure again, holding firmly, so really there's not much in the way of any active weather at all until we get towards maybe the middle of next week. If you're heading out Saturday, I know there's an Argos game. They're playing Ottawa. Great forecast to be enjoying sports outside still this time of year. As we get in towards Sunday, even more sunshine, and we're looking at this warm stretch really taking hold almost through to the end of next week. We're sitting at 18 tomorrow, so above seasonal, not by much, but comfortable. Overnight, fairly seasonal, and then the heat really starts to ramp up. We're sitting into the 20s as we head through your Saturday and your Sunday. Your Sunday night back in the double digits, it could be a little challenging for sleeping because a lot of folks transitioning into that kind of turning on the heat this time of year. So we're sitting at about 14 into Sunday night, so it's a little warm. You know, maybe some folks aren't complaining. They like the warmth. Heading in towards your Monday, up to 23, and we're staying in the 20s right through to almost the middle of next week. There's the slight chance of a passing shower, but we don't really see a return to seasonal until we get to almost the very end of next week. So if you like a warm fall, the next 5 or so days are definitely for you. Nathan, I'll send things back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, calls to improve asthma health care in this province and the growing gap in our health care system. The concerns and possible solutions coming up. Some 3 million Canadians cope with asthma.
And for the small percentage that have difficulties controlling their symptoms, this is the worst time of year. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan explains.
Payne Albrecht has had asthma since she was born. Her brother Jackson was diagnosed 4 years ago when he was 7.
I'm concerned that it's going to get worse, and how to manage it. Just for them to even be active outside, inside.
I can barely even walk up and down stairs without.
Yeah.
The latest research from Asthma Canada shows more than 70% of Canadians with severe asthma are not able to access modern treatments, and more than 40% had to rely on 4 or more rounds of corticosteroids, which can cause long and short-term health problems.
We have things like weight gain, mood change, sleep deprivation. They'll raise your blood sugar, they'll weaken your bones.
Dr. Susan Wasserman says there are numerous gaps in the healthcare system that result in less than ideal asthma maintenance.
There's clearly an education gap. I think patients have to recognize that needing oral corticosteroids and emergency room visits are not normal in terms of good asthma control. Same with the physicians that look after them.
Sheila DeVries says she knows a lot about asthma because of her years with the kids, but she says it can be frustrating when emergency room staff are less well versed about the latest treatments than herself.
We now have excellent inhalers, medications called biologics, which have been very useful in severe asthma. Is every physician aware of them? And do all patients have good access to them if they're indicated?
Payton is on several drugs, including the biologic Nucala.
If my allergies get really bad, then I take an allergy pill, and if I'm playing soccer or something and I get out of breath, then I take my puffer.
Fall is considered the worst time of year for asthma.
Children are back at school. Viral infection is rampant. We have a lot of it. People are in close quarters.
Plus other triggers like molds and cold air are also around. Asthma is a complex illness, and DeVries says a combination of government, families, and the healthcare system need to work together. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
As temperatures trend lower and respiratory viruses spread, Toronto Public Health is encouraging residents to get vaccinated. Updated COVID-19 vaccines are already available for priority groups and those at increased risk. They'll be offered to all residents aged 6 months and up on October 28th. Flu vaccines will also be available and can be administered at the same time. Publicly funded RSV vaccines are also available for certain high-risk groups. Toronto Public Health said adults above 60 who aren't included can speak to their healthcare provider about receiving it at a cost.
The province announced the completion of a new 120,000 square foot facility at Sunnybrook Hospital. This is the Gary Hurwitz Brain Sciences Center. It's billed as a first-of-its-kind site in Canada, serving as a hub for mental health care and research. It'll offer support and treatment to people and families living with complex brain disorders and illnesses. The new center is slated to begin delivering care to patients by January.
As One Direction fans and many others mourn Liam Payne, his former bandmates have released a message about his death yesterday at the age of 31. One Direction wrote on their Instagram page, "We're completely devastated by the news of Liam's passing," adding, "The memories we shared with him will be treasured forever, and we will miss him terribly." The statement was signed Louis, Zayn, Niall, and Harry. Fans have been leaving notes and lighting candles outside the hotel in Buenos Aires where Payne was staying when he died. An autopsy showed his cause of death was from injuries from the fall from the balcony on a third floor. And there were no signs of third-party involvement, no one in the room, as the search for answers continues.
Mitzi Gaynor, known for her roles in films like South Pacific, has died at the age of 93.
I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair and send him on his way.
Gaynor sang and danced in musicals alongside greats like Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly in the 1950s and 60s. She continued acting mostly on stage, with her career in show business spanning 8 decades. She died in Los Angeles this morning of natural causes.
It may feel like Billy Joel hasn't played Toronto for the longest time, but the music legend is preparing to change that.
His only show in Canada in 2025. Billy Joel.
You know the songs. Billy Joel hasn't performed in the city in over a decade. Today, he set a concert at the Rogers Centre for March 15th, 2025. While he played Scotiabank Arena in 2014, the beloved recording artist is making his return to the home of the Blue Jays for the first time in 30 years. Tickets go on sale to the general public October 25th.
Billy Joel.
After the break, putting an artistic touch on the beautiful game, Toronto kicks off a search to design the official FIFA World Cup host city poster. Details on the soccer pitch coming up.
They essentially got the wrong house. The Sidhu family was not the intended target.
Updating our top stories, stunning revelations today linking several homicides and shootings in the GTA to an international drug ring. Police allege the organization's leader, former Canadian Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding, in one instance ordered a Caledon shooting that left 2 family members dead and a 3rd injured last year. Wedding is now sought by the FBI.
It'll control motorist speeds. Right now, speeding on Parkside is completely out of control.
The city's mulling a proposal to redesign a busy stretch of Parkside Drive. It would add a bike lane to the street's west side between Bloor West and Lakeshore. But it remains to be seen whether the design would violate a provincial plan to regulate bike lane projects. The Minister of Transportation said Queen's Park will work closely with the city.
Our win today shows that our voices and concerns matter.
And 7 young Ontarians are celebrating a legal victory after taking the province to court over its emissions targets. The Court of Appeal today ordered a new hearing for the group after their case was previously dismissed. The province noted the ruling didn't touch on the constitutionality of its climate plan.
And remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
Tech investors rejoiced today at signs of continued strength in the market for advanced chips. Andrew Bellabine in Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there.
Chip stocks climbed today after huge manufacturer Taiwan Semiconductor posted a jump in profits on strong sales of NVIDIA's artificial intelligence devices. Shares in NVIDIA itself rose to a record high. This was a relief for investors after ASML, a Dutch-based maker of advanced chip manufacturing machines, warned this week of slower sales. The Wall Street Journal says that weakness is partly because of setbacks at Intel, whose market share in data centers and PCs has fallen, and Samsung, whose memory chips have lagged rival products. The Canadian dollar changed hands at 72.46 US cents, down just over 1/4 cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $70.09, up 27 cents. Western Canadian Select oil, by our latest fixed, was at $58.30, down 20 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at a new closing high, 24,690.48, up just over 129 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The Canada Revenue Agency says the next child care benefit payment will be deposited tomorrow. The tax-free payment is sent to eligible families to help with the cost of living while raising children under the age of 18. The remaining payments for this year are set to come November 20th and December 13th. The amount received depends on factors like shared custody and children's disability support needs.
It was just a matter of time. Austin Matthews was held off the score sheet for the first 3 games of the season, but the Maple Leafs captain responded last night.
On the tape, Marner, Matthews, and he fanned on it, reloads, and scores! There's his first as the captain, and number 200 on home ice.
Matthews also had his first 2 assists of the season in that 6-2 win against the Los Angeles Kings. Toronto welcomes the Rangers to town on Saturday.
As Toronto continues its preparations to host the FIFA World Cup in the summer of 2026, the city's put in the call out for some artistic talent to contribute. Officials are looking for artists to design the official FIFA World Cup 26 host city poster. The selected poster should encapsulate the spirit and identity of Toronto and its World Cup theme of the world in a city. An expression of interest with a brief biography and up to 10 examples of previous work can be submitted until the end of the month. But design proposals aren't yet required.
Just ahead, home ownership made possible. How a GTA charity is helping families purchase a market-rate home amid an unaffordable housing landscape. Habitat for Humanity is known for helping the dream of home ownership become a reality for some very grateful residents.
It's now embarking on a new campaign calling on people to support their vision. Today, CTV's Beth McDonnell spoke to one family forever changed thanks to the charity.
Hey, come on. Come to Mama. 8-month-old Samara is on the move. Just a few months after her parents became owners of this nearly 900 square foot 2-bedroom home in Toronto's Stockyards neighborhood. Despite both being working professionals, Sahil Ajani, a mechanical engineer, and Rosina Forrest, a physiotherapist, it's been a long road making this dream a reality.
We could save a little bit, but not too much, because half the money is going in rent. And the money we saved for down payment would just sit there, but the housing prices would go up so much that it wouldn't really matter.
After years of living in small places around the GTA and rent taking up half of Sahil's salary while Rosina got her license, they worried about the future and even waited to start their family.
Definitely moving is always stressful, and every couple of years we have to move. And when I got pregnant, the worry was just like eating me up, that what we would do in this space. There is a lot of crammed up, and how would my daughter do everything?
Ownership was made possible thanks to a program with Habitat for Humanity Greater Toronto Area, which has a new campaign aiming to highlight affordable housing solutions and raise money. For every 500 homes built, it needs about $50 million.
We also work hard with governments to get support through governments, but we still need extra, and that's where us being a charity is so important. That's where we need the donations to be that little bit extra that help us make more homes possible.
This is the living room.
The program means families don't need a down payment and are set up with a mortgage based on income. When families are ready to purchase a market rate home, it's sold back to Habitat for Humanity so other families benefit. 55 families in the GTA have purchased homes this year, with projects in Brampton, Oshawa, and Toronto on the way.
It feels a lot of immense satisfaction that we have a place, and the future looks better for us.
So since we got selected, we've been very grateful for this. And the thing that makes us happy is this is the place where she started crawling, and this is going to be the house where she starts walking. So this is going to be very special, and we are very happy.
Their place cost $710,000, and over their 25-year mortgage, Sahil and Rosina will pay about the same amount each month as they were paying in rent. It's a big relief, giving them the space they need to grow. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Oh, such a cutie. Congrats on the home. Let's talk about the sunny details ahead.
I feel like I'm giving the best news, depending on how you like your fall forecast. I know a lot of people are into the sweaters and the soup and all that stuff. We will return to that, but not really for the next 5 to almost 6 days. So if you do have outdoor plans this weekend, you want to spend some time outdoors, maybe get some of those fall activities out of the way before the weather gets a little chilly, this is the time to do it. We're holding on to high pressure this evening and nice clear sky, very seasonal as we wrap things up. Right now we're sitting at 13 still, the same through Windsor, the same in Ottawa, and we are holding pretty steady as we head through the overnight as far as seasonal temperatures go. Into the day tomorrow, we are starting that steady climb up to warmer weather. We are at 18 to round things out, and then into the 20s right through to almost the middle of next week. So if you do want to get outside and enjoy the sunshine, I recommend you do it over the next couple of days because you return to more seasonal weather at the end of next week.
Oh, plans are being made. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina at 11 tonight for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.